Exactly 5 minutes past 9 a.m. And of course, we're coming to the end, to the last hour of the show. And of course, as we're still driving the business. And at this very time, we're going to get into our business insights. But before we get there, don't forget, Zabo just made your trading experience much more easy and friendlier. I'll suggest dial *292# as you will be available with quite lots of opportunities. You can buy government bonds, securities, stocks, any of your choice with as little as 15. That is 15,000. You get initial links. The markets open at 8:15 a.m. and close at exactly that is 3:15 p.m. That is East African time, Monday to Friday. On the weekends they don't operate, and of course even during the public holidays they don't also operate on such days. Zabu, my money, my future, no more hustle. Buy stocks at whatever part of the country that you will be at. It could be in the north, it could be in the east, west, whatever the part of the country you're at. It's very awesome. No paperwork, no more hassle. My money, my future. Well, and of course at this very time we're going straight into our business insights, and of course I'll be when we return we shall be discussing a little bit regarding this, and of course will be about on the policy framework that is for coffee value addition in Uganda. What does it really entail? Let's review this. I'll be back with more analysis.
We have looked at the institutional, policy and regulatory framework, especially with the emphasis to do with value addition to coffee. By the mere fact that for a long time, Uganda as a country, and probably Africa as a whole, we had not had much to do with value addition. So it has given us the opportunity to discuss as coffee stakeholders a lot to do with the institutional arrangement that is required to transform the coffee subsector as far as value addition is concerned. That is key. What you need to know about value addition is that we've been earning too low, as a country, looking at the global scene. Globally, let me state the global figures. Globally, the coffee industry generates, by last coffee year, $460 billion. The coffee producing countries combined, earned an average of $25 billion. Now, that is about 5% of the global value. That is too low. And when we say all producer countries combined, it includes Brazil and Colombia, Uganda and the rest. Okay? So that is too low. 5% is too low. Now let us come home. Uganda, out of the 5%, it earned 0.17%. So it means we have to do a lot more. Therefore, this workshop we have had for the last, 3 days was well intended, and therefore we are moving in the right direction. Number two that we have discussed has been due to strengthening farmer organizations and cooperatives to ensure that many farmers that produce this most important commodity in the world, call it the second most traded commodity in the world, are empowered. But they can only be empowered when collectively they are working in farm organizations and cooperatives. So we have discussed as stakeholders how to strengthen these farm organizations and cooperatives. Number three, we have looked at the necessary investment and financing that is required to drive coffee value addition. Okay, what resources do we need in terms of funding, government funding the sector to ensure that we carry out value addition and many other aspects. But also we have discussed financing. How can the private sector be, galvanized to ensure that there is financing for them. And here we don't mean free money, no, but we are working closely with the government to ensure that is there money in a financial institution that is ring-fenced to finance the private sector, such that Uganda as a country, locals, as we can put it, can also have a larger export market share. Okay? Because as we speak now, the other foreign companies have an export market share of over 80% for the last 2 decades. So which means you and me, the locals, are sharing the other 20%. And even with the other 20%, 90% of it, they are more or less financed by the other foreign companies. So it leaves most of us as locals, at a disadvantage. So we are trying to see, we have discussed, yes, in as much as liberalization took place, but there is still, support needed from government towards the private sector to arrange financing to ensure that the locals can effectively participate in the export market. Discussed along with that. But we have been also keen to ensure that how can research be supported? Because research, it is the starting point of the entire coffee value chain. Once you are not strong in research, it means your value chain is not that strong. So we feel that we need also support as stakeholders, all of us combined, to ensure that research is well supported. But we have gone ahead, number 4, to look at the regional and international positioning of Uganda coffee, in those markets. How best can we do it? I want to tell you that, and thanks to government, that there are, legal regimes that have been put in place, including the Geographical Indications Act. And therefore, we are trying also to ensure that our coffee can be marketed with traceability, that our coffee can be traced from the source of production and all the way to the end of the market, and that our coffee should not get, lost somewhere along the way, which has been the case. But now with the Geographical Indications Law, and as we try our best, we are well intended to ensure that we position Uganda's coffee in the regional and international market. And that has been, something important for our workshop, which has lasted for 3 days. Sustainability as a whole. And I want to tell you that today, the international community, and this is facilitated by International Trade Center, which is based in Geneva, working alongside the International Coffee Organization, they came up with a legislation to do with sustainability and human rights. Now, that is an important element that for us as the coffee stakeholders, we needed to prepare ourselves for, such that we are able to comply, to the requirements of sustainability, to do with the environmental standards, to do with the food safety standards, to do with, labor standards, whether to do with younger people, and making ourselves understood that Ugandans, they do not practice, child labor as such, but child work. Our younger people need to learn, how to do work. That is how I learned, to do work, and therefore later on I had to establish my coffee farm and became, a real business, entrepreneur. So these are different efforts that we have looked at in this workshop, and we believe that once we are moving in the same direction as the coffee stakeholders with the government, even the 20 million bags we are talking about, we will be able to achieve them. And I'm glad that we have moved a long way from an average of 3 million bags. Now we are talking about over 8 million bags. So I think the future is bright for Uganda coffee. The future will be even more brighter once the institutions that we have already, and more importantly, UCDA that we have as an entity representing the coffee subsector is really maintained, is supported, to fully lead the whole process, while for us in the private sector really doing our work within an enabling environment.
Well, that's regarding, we are looking at value addition coffee, and of course looking at the policies in there. Are they really very, very favorable? I mean, because we know that coffee contributes about 60% to the country's GDP. So let's see how this really transpires out. But of course, before that, I'm joined on set with Rona Nahawe. She's a reporter of oil and gas. Very amazing stories on business today, and we are here to discuss this report regarding the coffee value addition. And of course, she covered this very story. We're getting to see what really came out there. So, Rona Nahawe, you're very welcome on set.
Thank you, and a very good morning to you.
A very good morning to you. Yeah. So we've heard what has been really put out there. I mean, what is it, according to the times you've been interacting with the different, engagements regarding coffee, value addition? I mean, there is lots of talks on value addition.
Yeah.
And lots of that.
Yeah.
What's your take on that, according to what you've been observing down there?
Well, my take, or maybe before I even get to the value addition, my take about Uganda's coffee is that it's a very, very important commodity for the Ugandan government.
Sure.
We were able to make $876.4 million US dollars as of November 2022. Yes. We exported 6 million bags.
The previous year?
Yes, for the previous financial year. And the target is 8 million bags for this financial year.
Okay.
In the near future, the target is 20 million bags for the financial year. The leading exporter of coffee in Africa is Uganda.
Okay.
But the one that earns the most is Ethiopia, followed by Kenya and Ivory Coast. You might want to ask yourself why.
Exactly, that's what I was about to ask you.
Yeah.
Why Uganda leading exporter but Ethiopia earns more?
Yes. So there's a problem with starting from the roots itself. Farmers yesterday met as stakeholders in this value chain. Yesterday they met to discuss and gauge a way forward in order to be more competitive in the global market. Since we're all known to have the best coffee from the mountain of Elgon, mountain from where all the nice Robusta, Arabica, and all that nice coffee. But they discussed and they talked about issues concerning to do with smallholder farmers, issues of drought. Because if you notice, for the last 2 years, our exports have decreased, and partly or mainly is because of drought.
Okay.
So they said that they need to do away with rudimentary methods of how they have been operating, local methods. They need to start looking at machinery, technology, irrigation schemes. They really need to empower themselves with that, and they called out to government to help them with funding. And just like that, the gentleman that just spoke from Nukafe mentioned, they don't need free money. This is money that is given to private sector specifically for coffee, since we have realized the value of coffee. So they said funding of these SMEs or these smallholder farmers, because even recently I think a colleague of ours went to Mbale. Is it Mbale?
Yes.
Where they talked about coffee, smallholder farmers having a problem. They were saying that it is impossible for them to benefit from this value chain reason.
Yeah.
Why? Because the middlemen are taking the biggest share.
Actually, there was that discussion about eliminating middlemen.
Yes, because they find themselves they are earning almost close to nothing, and yet they put in a lot of work. The middlemen that connect them to the people that buy the coffee and you know sell it are the ones that take the biggest chunk. So in that law that they mentioned, they say, sorry, in that stakeholder engagement, that was also part of the issues that they intend to raise to the president, because that stakeholder engagement was to come up with a document of solutions that they have come up with as stakeholders or players in the coffee value chain to take to His Excellency, and then they review it and they say what works best for them, so that they can move forward, just like I said, attain or compete favorably for the global market.
Okay, very interesting, Rona. Now, maybe if I may ask, because as we are reviewing the Coffee Act, we see that it kind of rotates around the Uganda Coffee Development Authority. So I would want to know, according to you, what is, because it's the body that regulates coffee or coffee, growers within the country, what would be their role in ensuring that this is really implemented?
Okay, for the act that I recently saw, from my understanding, it says that it gives UCDA all the mandate and power to see what is happening at farm activities. Engage more with farmers, understand what the gist is, and then it also gives them the power of penalties, licensing. Yes, anyone who is going to grow coffee, brew it, export it, all that chain that it passes through, roast it without a license would be, penalized. But then also something that might be interesting that you might not know, and I think most people might not know, from this stakeholder engagement, I learned that there was a proposition that they put UCDA under MAIF again. That is Ministry of Agriculture. They put it under it. And then people, I think they were still debating, saying, no, this is a private entity, this is the best way it can govern us and, help us achieve the goal of being benefiting from this coffee.
But personally, I wouldn't agree with that.
Yeah, because I think
being independent would be, because as you match them together,
it gives, just like the act says, it gives them the mandate to see. I think this is just politics playing out, because it gives them the mandate to be closer to the farmers, devote all their energy to coffee. And then make sure that, because the biggest problem that we have now is the issue of drought and irrigation schemes. Farmers, they don't have better methods of mechanization. Yes. And then I also interacted with the former Minister of Ministry of Agriculture, Honorable Victoria Sichterebo, who mentioned that farmers should not even be complaining about
value addition.
About funding. Funding. They should instead see what they have and use it best to their advantage. Look at what is in the basket. There is an issue of drought. She mentioned something about in Bushenyi, Barara, where people have already incorporated better ways of benefiting from this, of growing the coffee, mulching it, protecting it, growing it in the best condition or favorable condition to get better yields. Well, now, Rona, maybe lastly, you talked about in the coming years, the projection of being able to export 30 million maximum. 20 maximum of 20 million bucks. In your observation, looking at what is really happening here, do you think that is achievable for this country, Uganda? Yeah, if they just look at the strategic plan that they implemented yesterday, and they implement it, and then they have the support from government, of which I know that His Excellency has come out on several occasions to say, I'm really willing to help you people achieve your goal and be the best of you. So then why not? 20 million bags, I think, is even just bare minimum they can achieve, because farmers are there. And the market is realized, it is beyond. If you see the statistics they sent me from what we export to US alone.
United States.
Amazing. About 472.60 million US dollars is earned from US just alone. Now you've not even talked about countries, and we all know that Brazil also grows coffee.
Brazil is the leading one.
They could have exported. They could have exported from Brazil, but we are earning that much. So the market is there. It is diverse. It is gigantic. It is big. So the Ugandans just have to organize themselves and maybe use these policies that they have put in place to the best of their advantage.
Okay. And when I was also reviewing those statistics about since 1994, I realized that since that year till date, the value of the coffee values are rising up on every other day. I mean, which is really very, can I say, very encouraging, and it gives hope that the future targets might be achieved.
We just hope that, of course, the smallholder farmers are not left out from this value chain, because this whole thing starts with them. They're the ones that plant the coffee.
Okay.
They need to benefit and earn or even profit more than because they grow it.
Okay.
They are the owners of these trees.
The trees.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Rona, for that insight.
You're welcome.
Very interesting. That's Rona Nahabwe. She's a business reporter. She reports the oil and gas. For any person that wants to really find out, you should check out, of course, on our social media handles. You know, find out what's happening in oil and gas. Smart 24 TV Live, they're always posted there. Check them out, and like and learn something from them. You know, you could be somebody. You might need that information for quite some other users. Well, it's exactly 25 past 9 a.m. And of course, before we get into the break, don't forget Zabu just made your trading experience much more easy and friendly, as there is no more paperwork. Just dial *292# as you'll be availed with quite a number of options. I mean, with as little as 15,000 Ugandan shillings, we're able to get yourself these shares. And of course, you can withdraw still that money anytime you feel like you're tired and you can't really take this any longer. You know, *292#. The other options will be really put out there for you. No more hassle, no more paperwork. The market's open at 8:15 a.m. till 3:15 p.m. That is East African time, Monday and Thursday. Yes, Monday to Thursday, and Monday to Friday, and then we except the weekends and public holidays where they don't really operate. At least by the time, let's get into a short break. I shall be returning to wrap up the show with the topical discussions regarding the matters that are happening around the world and the country at the same time. Stick around. A very good morning.
Thank you.